The word normal comes from geometry. It refers to a direction that is perpendicular to a surface. Every single face in the model has a normal direction pointing outwards. Faces are two-sided, so we can use its normal direction as a way to differentiate between either side of the face. One we would call the front and the other the back. Think of the floor beneath our feet. The front of the floor, or the top of the floor, the part that our feet touch, that would be the normal direction would be up. The other direction would be down. In 3D game engines, we want to render frames as fast as possible, so we want to reduce the number of polygons that the engine needs to draw. If we can avoid telling the rendering engine to do calculations drawing faces that ultimately aren't visible to the user anyway, we can significantly speed up the rendering process. You can only ever see one side of a face at a time, so what if we could tell the computer not to render the back sides of faces? We can significantly improve rendering time by not bothering to draw these faces. Let's consider if a rendering engine draws every single face from furthest to closest. This is a simplification, but it will do. Looking at a sphere, the computer can skip drawing the faces that are further from us, and only draw the faces that are closer to us that will overwrite them anyway. This is called backface culling, and it works when we have the assumption that our models are closed shells and not transparent. And that tends to be a lot of the time, so it tends to work very well. When we define a face, we define it by listing the vertices that it's made of. The face orientation is defined by listing these vertices in a clockwise or counterclockwise way. This lets us add face orientation to a 3D model without increasing its file size at all. That's very clever. In Blender, backface culling is disabled by default, which makes sense. We're going to be looking at a model all around in order to edit it. It would be inconvenient if the mesh was invisible half the time. In Unity, however, backface culling is enabled and part of that engine. Consider this mesh, which looks fine in Blender, but if we bring it over into Unity, it's got all sorts of weird holes and weird stuff going on. Something is clearly wrong. Back in Blender, we could turn on the backface culling, but instead, let's visualize the normals by viewing the face orientation overlay. Blue is in the front and red is the backs of faces. Yep, it's all messed up. This model came from a 3D scan, and 3D scans often have odd issues like this. Plus, I selected this whole area and flipped the normals just for example. We could select all of the incorrect faces one by one and run the flip command. Or we could select everything and politely ask Blender to recalculate it for us and just try its best. There, much better. Face orientation is just one of the few things that we refer to as normals in 3D modeling. The others are vertex normals and normal maps.